Genetic fingerprinting has now confirmed that nearly 20% of urinary tract infections are not caused by hygiene habits or bad luck, but are directly transmitted from the turkey, chicken, and pork found in the average grocery store.
We're dealing with a systemic food safety issue disguised as a personal health failing.
Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Hello, and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the hidden causes of urinary tract infections, or UTIs. And look, I know this is usually filed under uncomfortable topics we avoid, but the data we have now it's honestly terrifying. We're looking at major investigations, including reports from the Washington Post, connecting your bladder health straight to the industrial meat aisle, and even your kitchen tap.
The sheer scale of the problem demands attention. We're talking about 10.5 million doctor visits every single year in the U.S. alone for UTIs.
And a huge chunk of those aren't just a quick clinic visit.
3 million of those escalate to emergency room visits because the pain becomes completely unmanageable.
3 million ER visits. That's a staggering amount of suffering for something we usually just brush off as a hygiene issue.
And if you zoom out globally, the trend it's exponential. From 1990 to 2021, cases jumped by over 66% worldwide.
Wait, 66%?
Nearly 4.5 billion infections.
People didn't just suddenly forget how to wash themselves in the last 30 years. A spike like that screams systemic failure.
The medical community traditionally pointed to anatomy or things like kidney stones or sexual activity, but those factors don't explain an explosive global surge. The focus is now shifting to a specific type of bacteria traveling from farm animals into humans.
Right, the meat connection. It sounds like science fiction, but a major study published in the journal Embibilio looked into this in Southern California. And they weren't just surveying people about their diets, they were doing high-level genetic detective work.
The methodology was incredibly rigorous. Researchers collected E. coli samples from retail meat and compared them with samples from over 23,000 human UTI patients using whole genome sequencing.
They were looking for a genetic fingerprint, like a CSI investigation for bacteria, matching the DNA from the infection to the DNA on the grocery store chicken.
The results were definitive. They found 18% of all UTIs in the study were caused by zoonotic extraintestinal pathogenic strains. We call them XPEC for short.
Let's break down XPEC. Zoonotic means animal-borne. Extraintestinal means it moves outside the gut. So, I eat a contaminated turkey sandwich, what happens next?
The bacteria survive your digestive process and colonize your gut. Normally, E. coli stays there. But these XPEC strains have specific virulence traits that allow them to migrate from the gut directly into the urinary tract.
Your gut basically becomes a staging ground for these superbacteria. And the contamination rates on the meat they tested, I actually had to read the numbers twice. Turkey was the worst offender, right?
Turkey is a bacterial minefield. 82% of the retail turkey samples were contaminated with these specific strains.
82%. That's 4 out of every 5 packages.
Chicken was right behind it at 58%, then pork at 54%, and beef at 47%.
So almost everything in the conventional meat aisle.
These animals are raised in concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. The crowded, unsanitary conditions act as an evolutionary pressure cooker, forcing these pathogens to adapt and spread rapidly.
Thousands of animals packed in the dark, walking in their own waste, of course, disease spreads. And we just pick up the neatly wrapped package at the end of the line.
There is also a severe socioeconomic impact here. The infection rates hit high-poverty neighborhoods much harder, jumping to 21.5%.
Because budget constraints force people to rely on cheaper processed proteins,
which carry the highest contamination risks. It completely reframes recurrent UTIs. For many people, it's not their personal hygiene failing them, it's their food supply.
That's tragic. You do everything right, but the food is the weapon. But meat isn't the only vector. There's another overlooked source we interact with dozens of times a day. Our drinking water.
A massive meta-analysis from the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene reviewed 20 studies on E. coli in water sources. We have a severe monitoring gap.
A monitoring gap. I get a water quality report from my city every year. They test this stuff constantly.
Municipalities monitor for E. coli as an indicator of fecal contamination to prevent gastrointestinal outbreaks, stomach bugs. They rarely screen for uropathogenic strains. the specific ones adapted to infect the urinary tract.
So the water passes the safety test because it won't give you diarrhea, but it could still be loaded with UTI-causing bacteria.
And you don't even have to drink it to be exposed. Brushing your teeth, washing vegetables, these bacteria enter the body and colonize. They live silently in your system until conditions are right to trigger an infection.
Like a sleeper cell just waiting for your immune system to dip.
Aging infrastructure plays a huge role. Poor sanitation and biofilms inside the distribution pipes create perfect breeding grounds.
Biofilms are those slime layers bacteria build to protect themselves, right?
They adhere to the inside of the pipes and are highly resistant to chlorine. One study in India found 104 E. coli samples in just 51 water samples from storage reservoirs.
Over 2 strains per sample on average. The pipes themselves are incubating the bacteria.
These waterborne strains have evolved virulence genes. Think of them as molecular grappling hooks that let them attach firmly to human tissues and evade our immune defenses.
Okay, between the grocery store and the kitchen tap, this sounds like a hostile environment. But the goal here is prevention. We have a strategy. Let's talk about the diet reset.
The most crucial step is eliminating CFO meat entirely. Conventional chicken and pork have to go.
Just off the menu completely.
The bacterial risk is too high. And there's a secondary issue, linoleic acid. Conventionally raised chicken and pork are loaded with it because of their grain-based feeds.
We usually talk about linoleic acid with heart health or metabolic issues. How does it tie into a bladder infection?
Linoleic acid drives systemic inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction. If your bladder lining is chronically inflamed, it's much easier for those weaponized bacteria to breach the tissue.
And your immune cells need massive amounts of mitochondrial energy to fight off the invasion.
If the mitochondria are damaged by dietary fats, your immune system cannot mount an effective defense.
So factory farm chicken introduces the pathogen and simultaneously strips your body of the energy needed to fight it.
It is a biological double whammy.
If conventional meat is out, what's the alternative?
Grass-fed beef from certified regenerative farms.
Because cows process things differently.
Ruminants have multi-chambered stomachs that handle bacteria differently, but the environment is the real key. Regenerative farms prioritize soil health and pasture raising. No crowded, filthy sheds. No routine antibiotics. The bacterial load is inherently lower.
What if someone really wants chicken or pork?
It must be organic and pasture-raised. Avoidance is still preferred because chickens and pigs are monogastric. They absorb the bad fats from their feed directly into their tissues, unlike cows. Grass-fed beef is simply the safest choice.
So we upgrade the grocery list, but kitchen hygiene is just as critical, even with better meat.
Cross-contamination is a massive risk. You need strictly separate cutting boards for meat and produce. And for sanitizing countertops, hot water, soap, and vinegar are essential.
There was one detail in the research that blew my mind: reusable grocery bags.
It's a huge blind spot. We use them to be sustainable, but raw meat packaging leaks invisible juices. The X-spec bacteria get embedded in the fabric of the bag.
And the next week, you throw your fresh fruit right into that same unwashed bag.
You're inoculating your raw foods with last week's pathogens. Treat those bags like dirty laundry. Wash them frequently.
Such a simple fix, but I guarantee almost nobody does it. Let's shift to personal hygiene. We know it's not the primary cause, but it's part of the defense against migration.
Anatomy dictates a lot of this, especially for women. Since bacteria often migrate from the rectal area to the urethra, wiping front to back is fundamental. But upgrading to a bidet is a game changer.
Water cleans physically, whereas paper just sort of moves things around.
A bidet physically washes the bacterial load away, drastically reducing the chance of migration. Also, showering is vastly superior to bathing.
Because sitting in a tub means you're just soaking in whatever washed off your skin.
You want the water and the bacteria to run off your body and straight down the drain. Pre-sexual activity washing for both partners is also highly recommended to prevent introducing new bacteria.
Let's talk interventions. If someone makes these changes but still gets an infection or has one right now, we want to avoid nuking the gut microbiome with broad-spectrum antibiotics if we can.
Pharmaceutical-grade methylene blue is a powerful alternative.
Methylene blue, I remember that from high school chemistry. How does it work for a UTI?
It acts as a targeted urinary antiseptic. It passes through the kidneys and concentrates in the bladder, reaching levels toxic to the bacteria without harming your beneficial gut flora.
So it bypasses the gut microbiome entirely.
The standard dosage is a 65 milligram tablet 3 times a day for a few days to clear the infection.
We also have to mention cranberries and D-mannose. It sounds like an old wives' tale, but there's hard science behind it.
D-mannose is the active sugar in cranberries. It doesn't actually kill the bacteria, it tricks them.
It targets those molecular grappling hooks we talked about earlier.
The D-mannose molecules mimic the landing sites on the bladder wall. The bacteria latch onto the D-mannose floating in the urine instead of your tissue, and you simply flush them out.
It's a decoy system. That's brilliant.
You can use pure D-mannose supplements, whole cranberries, or organic cranberry juice, but it must be unsweetened. Sugar fuels bacterial growth.
Which brings us to the dietary restrictions during an active infection. What foods aggravate a UTI?
The bladder lining is highly sensitive and inflamed during an infection. You have to eliminate acidic foods, citrus fruits, tomatoes. These cause severe pain.
Spicy foods, too. Capsaicin has to be a nightmare for an inflamed bladder.
It irritates the bladder nerves intensely. Caffeine and alcohol are also major triggers. They're diuretics, increasing urgency, but they also neurologically excite the bladder. You need to calm the system down.
Refined sugar feeds the bacteria directly.
And high-salt foods, store-bought soups, processed snacks, these also excite the bladder and worsen symptoms. Stick to simple, whole, unsweetened foods until it clears.
Beyond food, lifestyle factors play a huge role in recovery.
Hydration is paramount. You need the mechanical flushing action. Your urine should be clear or pale yellow. Daily sunlight exposure is also vital for supporting the mitochondrial energy your immune system needs.
And chronic stress suppresses that immune response.
If your body is locked in fight or flight, it downregulates immune function, making you highly susceptible to colonization. Stress management is a biological necessity here.
It's fascinating how interconnected everything is. We start with bladder pain and end up dissecting industrial farming, municipal water infrastructure, and mitochondrial function.
Knowing that nearly 20% of these infections come straight from the grocery store changes the entire paradigm. You are not a victim of bad luck. You have the power to control your exposure.
By rejecting CSFO meat, filtering water, maintaining strict kitchen hygiene, and using targeted tools like D-mannose,
You can build an incredibly resilient defense system.
the next time you're shopping, keep in mind you aren't just buying calories, you're buying a microbial history. Make sure it's one you actually want in your body.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. See you in the next episode. Looking for trusted health wisdom you can hold in your hands? Discover the life-changing books of Dr. Mercola at joyhousepublishing.com. These titles bring decades of natural health research into practical steps for better energy, stronger immunity, and clearer thinking. Take charge of your health with guidance rooted in science and experience. Visit joyhousepublishing.com now and claim your bonuses while they are available.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.